one. So last week, I got to spend my week around some incredibly successful people. I'm not any better than anybody else. I just happened to be in a position where I got invited to a few different closed door spaces that I'm going to share with you today. And I'm going to share some massive insights on things that I learned from those people, the top 1% that have made them successful that you can apply to your life today. So for context, my name is Justin Konikow. If you've never been to this channel, I own a real estate brokerage called Prime Real Estate with my incredible wife. We are the most trusted name in real estate. I'm a global ambassador for Ryan Serhant. I'm a McGillivray Mark trusted agent. We have a team of 28, operate like a Navy SEAL team. So we do residential, commercial investments, focused diversification across all real estate asset classes. And we are literally trying to change the entire game when it comes to real estate from the inside. It's a very shady industry. There's a lot of archaic things that need to change. So we expose a lot of that shadiness on our platforms, educate people and empower them. Because I truly believe we're in a world where the more data that's shared, the more it's greater for the community as a whole. Real estate has always been an industry where we gatekeep, right? Where, the boards would keep the sold information because they don't want the consumers to have it. Because if you have the data, then what do you need the agents for? And I was in a Twitter space last night talking in depth about how if my value proposition is just to share sold data with you or tell you what the average price is or the average days on market, I'm going to be out of a job in 10 years. The reason you work with people like me is leverage. So the way that I create leverage is relationships. So the one way I'm going to hand that leverage over to you is showcase some stories that I learned last week around the people I was with. So last Wednesday, I got the opportunity to be with the gentleman who happens to own Canada's Got Talent, Scott McGillivray. He has 8 shows in production. You may know him from the investment property TV show, his Vacation House Rules, or one of his many, many TV shows that he has. And yes, he's that kind of celebrity TV guy, but he's a very down-to-earth person. I've worked with Scott for close to a decade. I represent him and his investment group for my territory. So think about like a farmer's market for real estate investments where they bring 700 people from across North America into a room and then they bring 50 service providers. So they look for the top agents in each market. They look for the best in legal, insurance, land development, and they just get them in the same space and collaborate. So the really cool thing was after working with Scott for close to a decade, I was invited to a private dinner last Wednesday night and sat down with Scott and a lot of his partners. And I didn't feel like I was somebody that should be in that room. Yes, I know Scott. He's a friend. I've earned the relationship through doing a lot of hard work and being in the trenches with him, navigating the shifts in the landscape of what the real estate market has looked like over the last couple of years. But more than that, as he's grown his investment group, they've made massive pivots depending on where the markets were at and bolted on new things, right? They're constantly evolving. And the really cool thing that I've always seen him do is take accountability for things that were going wrong in, say, the marketplace or the way that the summit was ran or little things that they can do and change for the next time, right? And as I'm in a space and I'm around somebody like that, I'm trying to learn on like, how do they actually audit that? And a lot of it comes down to the conversations that they have with the people around them. They're asking for feedback. They're asking about what works, what could they change? Where do you think the market's going? And they're ingesting the information. So the first lesson I'm going to share with you, and this isn't even the biggest one, this is just one of the key ones, was being around a guy like Scott really showed me that, having the ability to look at yourself as the reason for all your failures and use that as fuel to become better is one of the largest indicators of success. The number one truth in business and in success is everything is 100% your fault. And this is what we're going to talk about today. So what's really cool is he's grown it from probably 30 people in the basement of his house to the 700 people that we had last weekend for 3 days in Toronto to next year looking to do something that is 10x anything we've ever seen. I was talking about it with him last night over text message. And what was really cool to see was just his level of excitement. It's scary. He's probably going to feel like he's failing for the next 5 years as he's building out the next evolution of what the program is. But he's not looking at any failures he's had in the past as something that's going to make him sit in, the bottom of his boat, sucking his thumb in a fetal position. He's looking at it as cool. What is the 10 or 20% of those failures that generated 80% of the positive results? Let's focus on that and let's keep bolting on. So that was Wednesday. And then Wednesday night got to share that dinner with some incredible people. And I noticed the same pattern amongst every one of them. We got into some very in-depth conversations about the state of affairs in the world today, right? I'm not going to get into geopolitics, obviously, and I'm going to say one giant asterisk to this, although I'm saying 100% of things are your fault within reason, right? Obviously, health and family and things that go wrong in life that are out of your control. We're just going to table that for a second. We're going to focus on the things that we can control. Let's talk about cities. Now, I can tell you a lot of primary markets, whether it be London, Ontario, New York, Montreal, Toronto, BC, we've experienced a big shift in what it's like to be downtown. Look at what happened in San Francisco recently, right? It is literally like Mad Max. From what cities were 10 years ago, we got into an in-depth discussion on how can we fix this? Like, being people that are involved in real estate on a daily basis, we want people to feel safe going downtown. We want businesses to invest downtown. We want people to be able to go to school downtown and kids to walk down the street. But I also empathize with the people who have had addiction and the issues that are beyond their control, at the point where their addiction is completely taking control of them. Yet there is an accountability piece that has to be in place in order for rule of law to work and for cities to actually function. But that discussion got very in depth. And I think this pulls out a lot of people. Flash your mic or drop a heart in the comments if this is something that you're thinking about as well. And like, man, I want to see the love and the joy and the excitement and the energy in the city that we used to see. And if you want to get a return to that, you're never going to get anywhere by shaking your fist at the storm, right? You're never going to get anywhere by just complaining about politics and regulatory capture, blaming real estate investors, blaming Airbnb hosts, blaming the people who are addicted, blaming the police. You're never going to get anywhere just shaking your fist at the storm. The only thing that you can do is take 100% accountability to the failures that are happening in your life and what you can do to change them and impact the community around you. It's a fantastic share I had earlier this week. And it was around the mindset that if you are on a boat and your average boat is 15 feet and you're in a storm that's 35 miles wide, are you better off to shake your fist at the storm or hide in the cab sucking your thumbs? Or are you better to batten down the hatches and work on getting yourself out of the storm? And now think about this. Think about the community of people that's around you at the same time, right? Think about all these different people that are in their own boats. And maybe they have a nicer boat than you, or maybe they don't. Or, maybe there's somebody you know really well, or maybe there's somebody you know by proximity, right? And they're running a business, or they have a family unit, or they have a community. What's really cool is you get your boat under control. The next thing that you can do is you can go help those people. You're never going to be able to tell the storm what to do, right? You can ask the creator of the storm for help and guidance. That's one thing you can do. But in reality, the way that we get forward in the society that we're in today and the way we fix a lot of the problems that we are facing is we take care of our own boats and we take care of the boats of the people around us. Now, how do we do that? The greatest lesson I learned last week was from day 2 of my little adventures. So day 2, we are launching a new podcast series. Very excited about this one. I can't even talk about it. Hit subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see the link to the first episode that should drop in December. They're in edits right now. Very, very excited about this podcast. But suffice it to say, I spent my day with 3 different top producing brokers. I got to go into their offices. I got to see how their teams operate. They gave me insights into their communities. I went from King Street West Toronto to North Toronto, and I went to a place called Kleinburg. All very different places, right? All very different cities with their own struggles. One is a place that is downtown Toronto, absolutely rife with traffic. I do think regulatory capture there is a problem. I look at the inefficiencies of construction and how the city's operating, and there's a lot of waste, which is a lot of taxpayers' money going down the drain. But how do you affect change? You work with somebody who's working in that community to take care of each other's boats and work on creating a better community together. As I walked down the street with this gentleman and we met so many people, everybody was saying hi to him. He was supporting local businesses. We went to a coffee shop to shoot a podcast. I learned so much. I went to a local barber that he knew. That barber is now a friend of mine. And I was putting him on to TikTok and YouTube. And now if I show him a way that he can become a multimillionaire, maybe he pays it forward into his community. Like, this is how you actually do it. You have to get out of your shell. You have to start realizing the world is bigger than just yourself, but you have to start with taking personal accountability yourself and then get around other people that are taking personal accountability. The second person I want to go see is the most important thing that I learned last week. It is the person that said one thing to me that I've been chewing on all week that I'm going to share with you today that I'm hoping changes everything for you moving forward. So I want you to think about one thing in your life that you're failing at. It can be work, it can be diet, it can be a great parent, it can be whatever. I'm not going to tell you to put it in the comments because this is for you. Write it down right now. What I want you to really think about is, what are the patterns that have allowed you to stay in this position of perceived failure, right? And failure is a loaded word. I say failure, I'm going to say it over and over and over until it's meaningless because you give it the power to feel the way that it does. This gentleman is probably one of the most prolific and followed real estate agents on the planet. I will share his profile. If you are on the Clubhouse audio stream, click the link at the top of the room because this is the guy that we're going to actually make his day. So as a collective, we're going to go to his Instagram. I want everybody to go to Salerno on Instagram. I'm going to drop this on Clubhouse in the comments. I'll drop this on YouTube as well. And I'm going to tell you a little story about something he said to me that absolutely blew my mind. So Mark Salerno is one of the most respected real estate agents in luxury, I would almost say, on the planet. He is an absolute monster. He's in Kleinberg, and he absolutely loves his craft. Dude could probably have 800 agents working under him. He could be a national speaker. He could recruit, but he's not worried about that. He is focused on being the best real estate agent on the planet. I was at this house with him last week. Went to his office. We hung out. He brought me to this listing. We did a tour. It was bonkers how nice this house was. What was even cooler, though, was just walking through the house and just seeing his absolute passion for the craft. He knew every nook and cranny of this house. He knew every comp in the area. Like he knew his job inside and out. And that made me happy because that's what I strive for, right? I do thought leadership. I talk online. People are like, well, do you even sell real estate? I actually sell more real estate than I do this stuff. It looks like I'm everywhere at the same time because just how we do our social media, but I am an active agent in production. I don't want a million agents. I don't want a million offices. I just want to be known as the most trusted name in real estate. So being around this dude fires me up. We're going to go back to his DMs in a second and we're going to send him a message, but I'm going to take us off the screen for now. So leave his profile up and I'll tell you what the activation is. What I had a conversation with Mark about, though, was how I was like, dude, you look different. I'm like, I've known you for some time. Like, we've been friends. It was the first time I actually met him in person, but like, we've been collaborating for years at this point. He's been on my podcast. Like, we chop it up on what's working, the market. Like, he's a friend. But I'm like, dude, like, where's the other half of Mark? Because he's slim now. Like, if I go back to his profile, dude looks good. Like, looks sharp. He's fitted. And he's like, yeah. It's like, I hovered between 250 and 350 forever. And he's like, I was killing every other aspect of my life. But he's like, this was the one place that I just felt like I couldn't affect change. And the thing that he said to me that absolutely stuck with me was, it wasn't a pill. It wasn't a potion. It wasn't the cold plunges that he does. He's like, I just made a decision that I was sick of it and I was going to make a change. And he said, you know, if I could do everything else at such a high level in my life, I just decided that today was going to be the day. And I chewed on that all week. And it was the way he said it. We were standing in the garage and he just said it with such simplicity and conviction that I was like, that's the key for most people that are struggling with anything, right? Making time for their family, you know, trying to put out content on a regular basis. Maybe it is losing 75 pounds like he did in 8 months. But I was like, it's literally just the decision that has to be made. The steps you're going to take moving forward from there are going to feel like you're failing 90% of the time until you look like this dude, Mark Salerno. And you're looking at that photo and he affected the change. And he is a different human being. Now he's gone down a wormhole and he can fast and he can do cold plunges and he can do things he couldn't do at the beginning. But if you scroll back a year and you see where he is today, I want you all to use this as encouragement. And I want you to decide, just like Abundant Health Services just said in the comments, that today is going to be that day. I want you to go back to that one thing that you wrote on your piece of paper that you want to change. Maybe it's being the best parent on the face of the earth. And you're going to have a Nerf battle or a Lego building challenge with your kid every day for the next week, whatever that thing is that you are sick of not changing. I want you to change it today. What I want us to do as a collective, because we have so many people here this morning, and I'm so happy to see you all here on the Prime Nation and make a whole bunch of new friends, and all the ones I see you all in the comments. I'll get to that in a second. I see the hundreds of people on Breakfast with Champions. I want everybody to go click on Mark Salerno's profile. What I'd like you to do is I would like you to send him a DM, and I would like you to send him some encouragement and say, I was talking to Justin this morning, so impressed at who you are. Or I was talking to Justin this morning, man, I can't believe you lost 75 pounds. Or thank you for changing my life. I just want you to send a word of encouragement to another human being who has inspired me and who has hopefully inspired you this morning to become a better version of yourself. Because I think by doing that, it will. Thanks you, Ramon. I appreciate that. Ramon Ray, I appreciate you. Abundant Health Services, I see you as well. Edward, I love you for being here. Thank you. And thank you so much for the kind words of encouragement. You're doing it to me. Now do it to somebody that you don't know for two reasons. One, I want to make his day today. I want him to see the DMs, and I'll make sure he sees them. Two, I think it will actually activate positivity in yourself, right? It will drive you to do the thing that could potentially lead you to getting those messages a year from now or not. But I want you to know that how you look at the world and how you decide to approach your day is going to determine how your day unfolds for you. If you spend your day shaking your fist at the storm, complaining about all the reasons why you are where you are, rather than actually just changing them, you're going to be in the exact same place in 1 year, right? There's places in my life and times in my life where I've been stuck in, feels like in the same place until I decided to affect change, right? I think about deals I've lost in real estate. I think about transactions that maybe I went on pitches for that I got and then maybe didn't work out and then we canceled the listing. That happens in real estate. When I go back and I think about it, sometimes it saved me from the wrong fit clients. Like I actually had to actively work on everything to realize who I am for, what I offer, and the type of people I want to work with. So it's a net positive. Failure is not a negative thing in that aspect, right? But there's other times where I will take 100% accountability and think, okay, my communications with my clients, what do they need to know? They need to know what's the activity on their listings been like. They want to know, do we have any hot leads that are going to actually offer? Have we had offers? Then they want to know what's happening in the real estate market. My neighbor sell his house? Like that's what they're paying me for. And oh yeah, what are you doing to get my property sold, Justin? Or what are you doing to find me a house? Like if I really take 100% accountability, I can break that down and I can start working on those aspects of my life. I think of partnerships that I've had throughout real estate, right? That have and haven't worked out. I think of ways that I could have been clearer in terms of setting up those partnerships or even understanding where I wanted to go with my business. I think of employees that how many of you have owned businesses and hired people because you just had a gaping hole that you had to slap a Band-Aid on and you brought in 40 resumes and you read those resumes and somehow those resumes looked like, oh my gosh, this is the solution to all my problems because you wanted to see that in the resume. You actually put your thoughts on that person without giving them the opportunity to tell you where they were going or what they actually wanted. Maybe you put parameters around a job and said, you know what, I'm going to tell them I need them in the office every day and that's what this job's for. And then it didn't work out that way. Well, maybe there was something you did wrong in the onboarding process to really understand that. Or maybe you don't have a hiring or onboarding process. Guess what? We built one, right? Then I think of the narratives that I've put on other people for perceived failures, right? And I think of case studies, and we do case studies on every file. How did we add value? What could we improve on? And what did we do that nobody else could do? And we track that so we can see patterns of the things that we're great at that we should probably do more of, and the things that we're not so great at that we should systemize, delegate, or never do again. The process of success of every single person I met last week, of all the successful people that I admire. And I'm not just talking about business. I'm talking about people that maybe don't have a dollar to their name, but are incredible parents and have respect in the community. Without fail, 100% of them take accountability, right? They are willing to not put their perceived failures on other people and shake their fist at the storm. Do not speak evil of one another, brethren. He who speaks evil of a brother and judges his brother speaks evil of the law and judges the law. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. There is one lawgiver who is able to save and to destroy. Who are you to judge one another? 100% of what is going wrong in your life is your fault. The good news is The answer is right in front of you, and it's in your own hands. The responsibility of caring for your family, for making money, for being healthy. And it goes deeper. As I chewed on this week, I was like, literally, this sounds a little bit crazy, but I was like, to protect my wife, right? And my family. I'm the one that is here to guard, guide, and govern my family. So what am I doing to make sure that I'm in good physical well-being, that I have situational awareness, that I have a community of people that I can activate if I ever needed it to happen, right? The police are not going to get here fast enough, just like many other places on the planet. That's the reality of the world that we live in. I need to be a great father to my daughter. How am I taking my perceived failures and stacking a skill set and becoming a better version of myself to be that man that I want her to tell stories about down the road and generationally impact my family, right? I need to lead my team and my community, the people that I am in community with. You are one of those people. If you're here and you sent a message to Mark Salerno, you are my people. If you're here and you've taken any one of these episodes, content I've shared it with one person who is struggling, you are my people. But that comes with an onus of care for me to constantly be looking at my failures. My camera is not my fancy camera today. This is a FaceTime camera. I updated my Apple OS, and guess what? It shut down all of my cameras. That's a perceived failure. I could not go live today. But if I didn't go live today, you wouldn't have got this message. I may have done it audio on Clubhouse, but it wouldn't live in perpetuity for potentially one person to find it, to get out of a rut that they're in, right? So when I think about leadership from this perspective, or even my real estate brokerage perspective, how am I looking and auditing the people around me to ask them, like, what do you actually need, right? For my team, very simple questions like administratively, transaction management, marketing, and support. Like, do you use the sales packages? Do you care about the social media posts? Like, how's the support been for you guys? How's the training? How's the leadership? Rate them 1 out of 10. 7's not an option. And then actually write down the things that they tell me to affect change over the next couple of years. The buck stops with us. The event I went to last weekend that I opened this session with, where I had 700 investors from across Canada coming to our booth. I spoke on stage on Saturday night. I don't feel like I'm anybody better than anybody else. I don't feel like I should know Scott McGillivray. I don't feel like I should have access to Mark Salerno. A lot of it just came from just being somebody that's willing to be accountable, put myself in positions where maybe I feel a little bit uncomfortable and try and get a little bit better every single time. I share the stories and I share the pathway because you have the ability to do that as well. You may not feel like it. You may have imposter syndrome. I have imposter syndrome. Most successful people have a level of imposter syndrome. But the key is, with those people that I met, and even myself, I really have to think that the buck stops with me. And that's what puts me in a position to be able to constantly be improving. When I spoke on stage on Saturday night, we got slammed on Sunday. Not many people know about Southwestern Ontario, Canada. I'm in London, Ontario, and surrounding region. We are literally, Toronto's here, Detroit's here. It's like the movie The Village, where there's a village in between that everybody just flies over and nobody knows is there. About 2017, people realized we were there. Now Volkswagen's building the largest EV battery plant in Elgin County. So we're doing a ton of relocations from the GTA and across Canada because industrial infrastructure is getting set up for the next 100 years. And people are looking for an emerging market. So at one day, Toronto was just this little farmland community, and then it became Toronto. Well, the greater London area is becoming that. So everybody came to our booths. Now, there were certain things in terms of how I had set up the booth, the intake form to make sure that we could handle the volume of people coming in that weren't perfect. It was bumpy. We were making shifts and changes on the fly. And a couple times I got a feeling of like, oh my gosh, the house is burning down. Like, we got to do this next time. I was able to acknowledge those emotions for what they were, but just sit in the suck, get through it. And when I got back on Monday, we had a nice tidy list of here's some improvements we can make next time. And actually, when I was out of the emotion of it all, I was able to step back and realize that it wasn't really a big deal. Like in my mind, 40% execution on maybe that portion of the summit was like an 80 or 90% execution compared to the norm, right? So when you're willing to take accountability and you're willing to build a better rocket ship, typically you're going to be really hard on yourself. Like I said, most successful people are going to feel like they are failing 90% of the time. But your 10% or 5% of success is probably still better than 90% of the world, because most of them don't have a plan and most of them are not willing to take accountability. So what I want to leave you with today is I want to ask you that same question. I want to ask, what is the one thing that you wrote down? Or what are a couple things that you want to work on over the next week that you can take accountability for? One of my favorite things about doing my streams on Friday is Saturday morning, I have a challenge for you. Grab half an hour in your calendar, put it in your calendar now. Try to do it before the world wakes up. Grab a coffee, grab a tea, grab a water with a lemon and maybe some apple cider vinegar and salt in it, and go sit somewhere quiet with a pen and a piece of paper. And then write down that one thing that you want to affect change on. And then start auditing yourself. And then start thinking about the ways that you can affect that change. And then start. Don't wait till Monday. Start affecting that change tomorrow. If you've been here for the live stream and it's something you want to share publicly for accountability, put it in the comments. One thing that I'll share publicly that we are working on is my organizational chart. I feel like I want to give people bananas clarity in terms of where they are on the bus, how our team operates, what their jobs are, what the standard delivery of service looks like for each one of those positions. Because I feel like if I give them that absolute clarity, then it's just so easy for them to focus and get the job done. So that's something that I'm taking accountability on. What is something that you are working on today? Drop it in the comments. Make sure if you're here and you want to connect with me directly to go to justinkonikow.com. That is where I drop resources and I'll actually send out my thoughts on these topics on a weekly basis. I also will offer live Zooms on a regular basis for the Prime Nation people. And then if you want to meet a lot of the people, including Mark Salerno, there is the Prime People podcast. You can listen to that on all podcasting platforms as you're driving around. I've been running it since 2015, and I've learned so much from interviewing these people. If you want to learn how to build your wealth and actually hacking growth and investing in real estate, I had Mark Ferris on last week. I had Glenda Baker, Matt Leonetti, Zach, like millions of followers on TikTok. The social media secrets episode was really, really good. We talked about using AI to scale your business. There's tons of topics. You can scroll through it. Let me know if you're there. And I appreciate you all for being here. I'll catch you next Friday at 7 a.m. And again, I'm here because of the community. I want to thank every one of you for being part of the Prime Nation. Going to go back over to Clubhouse for now, but I'll see you next week.